No. Much older than me. Oh. We'll be starting in 3 minutes. This is 1 minute. Oh, okay, never mind. Good evening, Huddle. Good evening. Okay, let's try again. Good evening, Huddle. Good evening. Welcome back for our Huddle Monday. Give yourselves a round of applause for being here. We are glad to be back for another Monday evening. Last week, we celebrated our 10th year anniversary, and so we are glad to be back in regular, normal Huddle form, right? All right, so we are going to open up tonight with prayer. So let everybody be still so that we can pray. God, we thank you for this time and this opportunity that you have brought us here today to have great discussions and great conversations. God, we ask that you will bless all of those that are here and bless those that are on their way. Bless all contributors and everybody that will say something, and even those that don't come up on the mic. Bless whatever they say in their minds. And we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Now we are going to have our opening scripture by our senior advisor, Patrice. Yeah, Patrice.
Thank you, Christian. Good evening, Huddle family. Our scripture for this evening. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills from which cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smile thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in, from this time forth and even forevermore. This was Psalms 121, verses 1 through 8, the King James Version. May the Lord add a blessing to the reading, hearing of his holy word.
Thank you, Patrice, for reading that scripture. And that's a very good scripture, and I hope all of you really heard that word, because that's a good message. Now we are going to have our chair report by the co-founder and the National Membership Director, Ms. Dominique Sharpton. Let's give Dom a hand.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I want to thank everyone who was in the house last Monday. We had an amazing event celebrating the anniversary of Huddle. Many of you know we've been in this house over 10 years, convening every week, making sure our young people are receiving the knowledge, the tools that they need to what? Helping and uniting dreamers to develop, lead, and empower. So thank you all for joining us last week. Those of you who are amongst us, some of our honorees are in the house, so we thank you, Gino, Gina, so many others who were joining us to be honored, whom we are blessed to be able to recognize for the work they've done in the community and in the nation overall. So we have a lot of work that we have accomplished, but we got a lot more work to do, and we're excited about it. So thank you so much, all of you, for your support, for pouring into our young people, for being here with us every single week, and really making this work. Thank you so much. I also want to mention that Ashley and I may seem a little down. I'm a little tired because we were in Miami this weekend supporting the Trayvon Martin Foundation. Sabrina Fulton and Tracy Martin, the parents of Trayvon Martin, as well as his brother Javaris Fulton, they convened the annual Trayvon Martin Memorial Weekend. On today, Trayvon Martin would have been 29 years old. And as many of you know, 12 years ago, Trayvon Martin was killed in Sanford, Florida, as he was walking home from the store. He had some Skittles and an iced tea, and he was walking home and encountered this person, we don't call his name, and something happened, altercation happened, and it ended up him losing his life. And it really sparked more than a moment for us. It was really a movement and a recharge, a reinvigorating step for us as activists and for the whole world to see how these instances are happening and playing out, especially to our young men of color. And so thankfully, Sabrina and Tracy, Trayvon's parents, have really taken up the mantle to ensure that communities at large are receiving the services, the help that's needed, opportunities for young people to thrive and succeed. They have started the Circle of Mothers and the Circle of Fathers, where they convene mothers and fathers who have also lost their children to senseless violence in our communities. And some of those, stories, some of these situations just go unnoticed. No one ever knows about them. The news never catches on. They never make it to the media. And so we never really know about it. But these things happen quite often, unfortunately. And it really does take a toll on a family. I mean, I can't even imagine the tragedy of having to bury your child because of senseless violence. And their lives being taken at the hands of someone else because they took matters into their own hands and decided to take their lives. So it is definitely a movement and one that we support wholeheartedly. And so we were in Miami this weekend. They had their annual Peace Walk and Peace Talk because Trayvon deserved to walk home in peace. And so they have this convening where they have this peace walk every year, and then they have a peace talk following that. And our own Ashley Sharpton, our founder of Huddle, spoke at the peace talk after the peace walk. And then on last evening, they had their annual gala where, of course, they raise money and funds, and they also honor people in the name of Trayvon Martin, whom, like I said, who would have been 29 years old today. And I was blessed and honored to give the foundation appeal to make sure that we get the word out to continue to support organizations like the Trayvon Martin Foundation. And certainly, National Action Network has done that for the 12 years that it's been in existence since Trayvon was unfortunately murdered. And we also have to really acknowledge the charge ahead and what we need to do to stay connected, to keep reaching out to our brothers and sisters in their times of tragedy, and to really step forward, as we fight for justice, as we fight for equality, how that looks like and how that looks like across the country. So in South Florida, things may not look exactly the same as they do here or in Detroit or in Chicago or in Atlanta, but we all stand hand in hand on the issues, and we all stand hand in hand on the mission, and that's fighting for justice and equality for all who deserve. So we were blessed to be in Miami. We're a little tired, but we want to also just acknowledge the life of Trayvon Martin. Today he would have been 29 years old. We have no idea what dreams and accomplishments Trayvon would have accomplished because his life was taken so short at the age of 17. And so we just continue the work, and we continue to lift his name, to say his name, and to, of course, uplift his legacy by doing the work and making sure that, hopefully we can prevent for future Trayvon Martins to happen as we continue to do the work, fighting for justice, fighting for equality, standing up against egregious policies that prohibit us from moving forward and prohibit our people from, of course, receiving justice. So with that said, we lift up the name of Trayvon Martin, and we hope that you all will continue to do so as we continue to move forward. We're also celebrating, yes, give that a round of applause. We're also celebrating 18 years of Reverend Sharpton doing his nationally syndicated radio program, Keeping It Real. So on this past week, January 30th, Reverend Sharpton celebrated 18 years of his nationally syndicated radio show, Keeping It Real, from which I'm happy to step in and host for him when he's off on the road doing things and fighting the good fight. So I'll be keeping it real quite often, but I'm really blessed to also just be able to stand in. It's not easy. 3 hours talking politics is not easy at all. So just thank y'all for your support. Reverend Sharpton does this Monday through Friday. He's been doing it for 18 years. So we know the commitment, speaking to the people and speaking truth to power. So for 3 hours a day, like I said, 5 days a week, he discusses pertinent issues and concerns of the community, as well as diligently listens to callers from across the country. He's in over 52 markets in the country, syndicated all over the country. So NAN commends Reverend Sharpton for his continued dedication to Black radio and to listeners everywhere. And for 18 years, Keeping It Real has served as a premier spot for elected officials, celebrities, civil rights advocates, community leaders, thinkers, artists, and everyone in between to all stop by and participate in an engaging conversation with the Rev. Presidents Obama and Biden. President Biden was just on Keeping It Real on King Day. Congressional and Senate leaders, actors, athletes, singers, activists, youth leaders, and many others have all made appearances on the broadcast throughout the 18 years. And Reverend Sharpton thanked Dr. Kathy Hughes for creating and financing the show. Many of y'all young people who don't know who Kathy Hughes is, I encourage you to look her up, to research Kathy Hughes, and also her son, Alfred Liggins. They really energized and continued the program, and also Brother Fatin Muhammad, who has been the senior producer for all 18 years. So be sure to catch the broadcast. I know it replays from 7 to 9 here in New York, but all over the country between the hours of 1 and 4 p.m., you can catch Keeping It Real with Al Sharpton. Protesting to protect DEI. So every Thursday, National Action Network has been leading demonstrations in front of hedge fund billionaire Bill Ackman's headquarters in New York City. The weekly demonstrations against Ackman's assault on diversity, equity, and inclusion, also known as DEI, as well as his attacks against former Harvard president Claudine Gay, have truly gained the support of a broad coalition of folks. This was the fifth week in a row that we have protested in front of Ackman's Manhattan office. And last week, Reverend Sharpton and Nan were joined by Ariane Simone, the CEO of the Fearless Fund and founder of the Fearless Foundation. Previous demonstrations have also included support from 100 Black Men of America, as well as New York City Comptroller Brad Lander, who is Jewish, and joined Nan's protest in a show of solidarity. So every Thursday at noon, Nan convenes a group to picket outside of Ackman's office in an effort to raise awareness and preserve DEI measures. Nan's convention is quickly approaching. From April 10th through the 13th, we'll be at the Sheraton Hotel in New York City. Rev and the National Action Network team, we're really busy preparing for this year's annual national convention. It is free, so we want you to encourage your families, your friends to sign up and register to join us at the convention. We'll be convening clergy, elected officials, celebrities, activists, thinkers, movers, and shakers. The annual convention actually allows us and gives us the opportunity to really create that action agenda of what we're doing across the land, across the nation on issues that affect us. So we talk about housing, we talk about jobs, we talk about healthcare, we talk about education, we talk about everything under the sun as relates to the issues and the policies that we need to keep us moving. So please join us for the convention. It spans across a few days, so if you can't make it to every day, we encourage you to come to as many days as you can. But we will be convening the convention this year, April 10th through the 13th at the Sheraton Hotel. So yeah, sign up for that. We also celebrated this past weekend, marked the 25th anniversary of the police killing of Ahmadu Diallo. Who remembers Ahmadu Diallo? What happened with Ahmadu Diallo? Does anyone want to speak to that? What happened to Ahmadu Diallo 25 years ago? Yes, brother.
So Ahmadu Diallo actually lived in the same neighborhood that I lived in.
Wow.
And he went inside to get his wallet. And they didn't really understand that perhaps his movements could have been expressed better. At that time, police had bullets that were full metal jackets. And they were squeezing at him those bullets. And as the bullets discharged, they ricocheted off of the metal around them and were actually coming back at them. So they quickly used the assumption that he was shooting back and continued to discharge until their weapons were empty. Hitting 30-something odd shots.
41 shots. 41 shots.
So they had heavy artillery in an effort to make up some reason why it is necessary to have something to destroy mankind. Instead of doing their jobs and investigating it properly. So if you're too afraid to do your job, get another one.
So Ahmadu Diallo was killed. He was an immigrant from Guinea. He was here studying as a student, and the police accosted him. Like the brother said, he was going inside to show his identification, and in that moment, shots were fired, and 19 of 41 bullets hit his body. And of course, he passed away. His mother, Kadiatu Diallo, called Reverend Sharpton, called on the help of Reverend Sharpton, because the officers who were involved in shooting those 41 bullets had not been arrested. No charges had been brought on them. And it took Reverend Sharpton, Nan, and so many leaders in this city to actually they started demonstrations. They started the Days of Outrage, where they would go out and sit in civil disobedience, as they called it. They would be arrested every day until the cops who shot Ahmadu Diallo were arrested. Now, those cops ended up being arrested and charged, but they were acquitted of all charges in this incident. And it was a very critical moment, I think, in our movement, not only to look at what was happening with police policy, police standards, and what was going on with police brutality in particular, but also the policies around the protection of police, as we saw it with our own eyes, as these demonstrations concluded with the, of course, acquittal of these police officers. Now, Ahmadu's mother and his father, took on the fight, took on the mantle, and 25 years later, Kadiatu Diallo stood here on this platform to not only thank Reverend Sharpton and Nan for their support, but also talk about, the struggles forward of how, too many countless young people, especially our men of color, are being shot down in the street, some by police, and others just basically senseless violence, and we've got to stop the violence. And so it was very heartfelt to hear from her, to see her, and to have mothers like Eric Garner's mother, Gwen Carr, to wrap their arms around her 25 years after the death of Ahmadu Diallo, to say that we're still here. We got a lot of work to do, but we're going to come together in the fight and struggle for justice and for equality. So with that said, want you all, young people, if there were some names that I mentioned that you didn't know of or you had never heard about, I encourage you to research them. Ahmadu Diallo, Trayvon Martin, say these people's names, Kathy Hughes. Make sure that you all are not just sitting here listening, but that you're taking heed to what we're talking about, and you're going and learning more about these individuals, especially that we're speaking of, because they definitely make a difference. They've broken barriers, and we need to lift them up and definitely know who they are. So thank you so much for your attention. I'm going to turn it back over to Christian.
Thank you, Dominique, for that wonderful report. And if you did not hear the story of Ahmadu Diallo's mom, when Rev told us on Saturday, you should go back and listen to how Ahmadu Diallo's mom told the mayor of the city of New York, and was in a nice, beautiful hotel, looking over Central Park, and said that she wouldn't stay there and that she wanted to go with Rev because she knew that it was Rev that was going to get her the help that she needed. And Rev always speaks that that National Action Network is a movement, and that the middle name of this movement is action, and that the action goes back for over 30 years. That National Action Network has been in existence 32? 33. This is 33? Okay, 33 years that NAN has been in existence, but we know that Rev has been doing this for a long time. And so we are going to continue to fight with the brothers and sisters that have lost people. And so we have a great conversation tonight. So now let's move on, and we are going to go into our Black History Fact of today. But before Miss Gina comes, come on, Miss Gina, with the Black History Fact. What is this month? This is Black History Month. And even though we have the shortest month, as Rev said on Saturday, Black History Month is every day. And we are going to continue to make every day that we are alive Black history. Am I right? Okay, I don't think you heard me. I said every day that we are alive, we are going to make it Black history. Am I right? All right, so Miss Gina is going to come up today with some Black History facts for today. Let's give Miss Gina Williams a hand. And if you were not here last Monday, Miss Gina was one of our honorees who was here, one of the beginning people here at Huddle. So come on, Ms. Gina.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Huddle family. All right, so yes, this is true. Black History Month is in February. Sometimes it's 28 days, sometimes it's 29 days, depending on a leap year. However, it might be the shortest month, but it is the power of truth that says people of color can get things done without a time limit. We might not need a massive amount of days. So you give us the shortest month, but we'll celebrate it every single day of the year. Right? Okay, so we do have some fun facts here for you today. And so, does anyone know why Black History Month is in February? Any hands? Anybody want to take a deep dive? All right, so Carter G. Woodson, a founder of the Association for the Study of African American History, first came with the idea to celebrate Black History Month. Woodson, the son of recently freed Virginia slaves, who went on to earn his PhD in history from Harvard, originally came up with the idea of Negro History Week to encourage Black Americans to become more interested in their own history and heritage. Woodson worried that Black children were not being taught enough about their ancestors' achievements in American schools in the early 1900s. Well, the same is true now. Even though we have cultural responsive education now, we still need more of that to go on because a lot of our children in school are walking around prominent people right here in Harlem or in whatever borough, and they don't even know who they are. And that's sad, especially when we're talking about people who come and they public servants for a borough, a district, a county. They need to be recognized for the good works that they do. And we need to encourage our children and turn it into like a fun game. You know what I mean? When you're going down the street, even the street signs, they're named after people of color, right? So that could be like a little educational, quick, fun fact that we do, walking down the street with our children. So why is Black History Month in February? Does anybody know that? All right, nope. So oh, you know? Come, tell me. That's partly correct. You already know because you read it. So, okay, so the first reason is because there's two important birthdays in that month. And so, well, actually three. So one is President Abraham Lincoln, who was born on the 12th, and so was I. You saw that one coming. And then the other person who we should all know, and I'm going to give you a hint, he was a former slave, and there you go. Yes, that is correct. That is correct. His birthday is celebrated on the 14th, which is Valentine's Day. So everybody should show him a lot of love and do, a hashtag or something. Don't forget President Lincoln and myself while you're hashtagging. But let's see here. So, we can say a lot, but the most important thing is that this celebration started out with a week. And a week just was not enough time. It just wasn't enough time. And so, out of the subject that receives attention, 1 week out of 36 would not mean much to anyone. And so that is why it went from Black History Week to Black History Month. Now, let's make a connection right here and connect some dots, if you will. Indulge me for one moment. The same is true with what do we celebrate in August? There you go, Harlem Week. Harlem Week is not a celebration of a week anymore. It's the celebration of a whole month. So that just goes to say what I said in the beginning, the shortest month, but we're going to celebrate it all year long, just like our leader, Reverend Sharpton, says as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miss Gina. She can come up and do the Black History Fact for us any day. All right, now we have already had the huddle report and everything. Now I'm going to open it up to some good news. Anybody have any good news today? Somebody has, yes, Lorianne. I got your name right? Yes, I've been calling her Lorraine all week. So y'all have to forgive me. Lorianne. Come on, Lorianne.
How y'all doing, Huddle? Happy Monday, everybody. And happy the first Monday, Black History Month. All right, so today my good news is health related. First, I'm gonna give a backstory. I have been procrastinating and delaying this procedure for almost 2 years because I have been terrified. But today I went and got a colonoscopy. So, and I'm gonna tell you something about it. It seems intimidating. Well, let me tell you what it is. It's taking a camera and inserting it into your rear to take a look at your large intestine, which is also called your colon. And in that, they look for polyps to see if anything, because a lot of times people get colon cancer and they don't know till it's like really late. But the hardest part of the procedure was actually prepping for it, because if you know me, you know I like to eat. And I had to stop eating yesterday at 12:15. So I went 24 hours without eating, and I actually did it. So they found some polyps, they took them out, they're gonna test them and let me know. But I'm just happy about that. That's it.
Thank you. And we got to ask Miss Kathy if you could get some extra food. She was on a little bit of an intermediate fast. Anybody else have any good news? Anybody else? Miss Goldie, you ain't got no good news? Okay, well, let me say this. We have a few birthdays. So I'm going to do this because I don't know if we ever done this at Huddle, but I'm going to start it. Miss Goldie's birthday is on this Thursday, February 8th. Miss Gina's birthday is next week on next Monday. Megan's birthday is also on the 8th. I forgot to say that. Oh, Sabrina's birthday is on Wednesday the 7th. Okay. Miss Chapman's birthday is at the end of the month. We're going to get you in 2 weeks, the 21st. Anybody else that's in here that has a birthday? Nobody else? Okay. Mr. Ernest is coming up with some good news.
All right. Good evening, Huddle. I went to the hospital to see Miss Johnson, and a few times it was a little touch and go, but she's in great health now, and she was on a breathing apparatus, but now she's off. So that's a good sign, all right?
Yes, and we're going to keep praying for Mother Johnson that she continues to feel better. Marcus Al, you got good news?
I got the Harvard Express. Yes, I did. I got a Harvard Express. It was the Harvard Express, my new train.
Very good. Marcus Al likes trains and buses. He loves stuff like that. Yes, Harry Potter. That's Harry Potter for all of you that don't know what the Hogwarts Express, I don't even know if I said it right. He said it better than me. But that's the Harry Potter Express. So if y'all don't know, all right? I also have good news. No, let me tell you the good news Ashley told me to tell y'all. So first, AMC is giving $5 movie tickets to all black movies in the month of February. So let me tell you the exact movies that y'all can see. The Color Purple. Y'all can see Equalizer. Y'all can see Soul. And there's another one. 1 minute. I'm sorry. I lost the article. But there's specific times that y'all can go. So let me tell y'all that before y'all go to AMC and say, I'm here for the $5 tickets, and they say you missed your date. So I don't want y'all to say it was us. All right. So, as I said, Equalizer is from February, the Equalizer 3, not regular Equalizer, Equalizer 3. $5 tickets is from February 2nd through the 8th. So that's almost, time is winding up. February 9th through the 15th is Spider-Man Across the Spideyverse. Okay. February 16th through the 22nd, The Color Purple. We already saw it, but if you want to see it again, you can go ahead. It was a wonderful movie, wasn't it? All right. February 23rd through the 22nd, February 23rd through the 29th is Soul. That is a Pixar Disney movie for any little people. So, those are the movies that you can see at AMC. Don't forget those dates, because if you do, you don't get your $5 tickets. All right? All right. Now I have my own personal good news. First thing is that I have accumulated about $300,000 worth of scholarships to college. Yep. Yes. And I wanted to say this because Usman is probably going to see this. But Saturday, I got accepted to the University of Albany and to Bowie State University, which happens to be an HBCU. I was waitlisted. This is also good news to me. Some people were like, Christian, you should be sad. I said, no, why? I got waitlisted to Howard. I got waitlisted to Morehouse. I got waitlisted to Temple. And I got waitlisted to Northeastern University. That's my good news for today. All right. Now, I know, Dominique, I know you went to Temple. And Ashley's Hampton. I didn't apply to Hampton, but that's a different story. All right. All righty. So that is the good news. Anybody else has anything else to say before we move on into our Did You Knows? Oh, yes, we're glad to see Say 2 back. Say 2 had knee surgery. And we're also glad to see Patrice is back. We can't forget Patrice. All righty. That's it? Okay, that's all we got. All right, Gino, I forgot about Gino. Gino is going to come and do our membership and text alerts for anybody that does not know, but now you're going to know. And also, don't forget, Dominique has already said it, registration is open for a convention. Convention is April 10th through the 13th, and this is going to be a wonderful convention. Rev even said it might be one of the biggest ones we've ever had. I don't know how much, it probably is. Ashley told us. Who was the special guest for the Keepers of the Dream? Who did she say? I can't remember. Didn't we say it already? Who was it? I forgot. Wimpy Goldberg. Thank you. I forgot who it was. But Wimpy Goldberg is coming to the Keepers of the Dream dinner. Doesn't that deserve a clap? Y'all don't know Wimpy Goldberg? All right, and there's some other great people coming. So y'all get ready and get prepared. Gino is coming with our membership and text alerts. But make sure you are at convention. What dates is it? April 10th through the 13th. Registration is open. If you want to volunteer, the director of volunteers is over here, Ms. Patrice Perry. And she'll be dealing with all volunteers and all things like that. All right? All right.
Good afternoon, everybody. Well, good evening. Is everybody an updated member for the year 2024? Have you renewed your membership? If not, this applies to you as well as those who are not members. The best way to stay informed and in the action is to become a member of NAN. Stay informed about NAN events close to where you live. text justice followed by your state to 59769, 59769. And then every Saturday is the rally here at 9 a.m. But if you want seats, come here at 8 o'clock.
Great. Thank you so much. And Miss Gina, you were right. Gina is getting taller. I must be shrinking. All right. Now for our first Did You Know of the evening. We have, first Did You Know is going to be informational. Mine is not informational. I got a question. And Ashley will decide when she comes up. But that's the order that we are going in. The first Did You Know for tonight is Miss Patrice Perry. Come on up, Patrice.
So Dominique touched on my article a little bit earlier. Just want to give you a little bit more facts in reference to Trayvon Martin. Hold on, sorry. Celebrating Trayvon Martin, how his legacy continues to thrive. Trayvon Martin never asked to be the face of a movement. He never asked to be a martyr. But his untimely death has had a lasting impact on discussions about systematic racism and gun violence. Scholarships were created in his name, laws were scrutinized in his honor, and documentaries were created to tell his story. Trayvon Martin's legacy still lives on through the many who work hard to keep his name alive. This starts with his mother, Sabrina Fulton, who also did not ask to become the mother of a movement. Happy heavenly birthday to my son, SUN/son, SON, Shine. Just know that I do this all for you, wrote Fulton. You will forever be a part of my heart, and even the death of you has not separated my love for you from your mommy. The family also participated in the 12th annual Trayvon Martin Peace Walk and Talk. That's what Dominique and Ashley were representing Nan. This weekend that just passed in Miami Gardens to commemorate his life and promote peace and a dialogue in his memory. Filmmaker Ava DuVernay is releasing a new film called It's not just Trayvon Martin family that is working diligently to keep his legacy alive. Filmmaker Ava DuVernay is releasing a new film called Origin, which, according to Business Insider, is based on Isabel Wilkerson's best-selling 2020 nonfiction book, The Origins of Our Discontent. The film will tackle all of the things that have happened according to racism in America, and it will open with a scene that begins on the last night of Trayvon Martin's life in 2012. It opens on him having a very carefree conversation with his homegirl on the phone and going to buy candy and being very deliberate with counting out change for the cashier and defending himself against the sprinkles happening outside in the rain by putting up his hoodie. You don't see anything that happens to him until another 20 minutes in the film. 12 years after George, killed Trayvon Martin, stand your ground laws continue to be a point of contention amongst Martin supporters. In 2022, the Northwest Florida Daily News published an article about Florida's stand your ground laws, about its nature despite the ongoing disparities in the application of the defense. Trayvon Martin's birthday is a day to celebrate his life and also a day to remember his name. It's up to us to make sure his legacy lives on and actual change is made in his honor. Say his name. Let's try that again. Say his name. What's his name? Say his name. Continue to keep Sabrina Fulton and their family in prayers. Again, he would have been 29. So continue to keep his name alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrice, for our Did You Know on Trayvon Martin. And we are going then, we'll continue to stand with the Martin family and with Trayvon's family. As you can see, Ashley and Dominique were there over the weekend. Even though it happened 12 years ago, the pain and the grief of that family will never leave them. And so we are going to continue to stand with that family forever. All right? All right. So now, my Did You Know is speaking on, now I had the ability to speak on two things. It was energizing voters in swing states or dealing with teaching. And so my Did You Know is a little bit of both. And let me tell you how. Educators wrestle with new limits on teaching Black history. They are wrestling with how to teach Black history. Schools and universities are marking the start of Black History Month today as many educators across the nation wrestle with increasing limits on what they can teach about racism and history. Why does it matter? New laws in at least 14 states and various restrictions elsewhere or the threat of them are leading many teachers to simplify and to simply mention important figures in Black history without getting into the racism they face. In all, lawmakers in 30 states have proposed new restrictions during the past year on what schools can teach about the nation's racial history, according to the National Congress of State Legislative Data. Let me tell you one thing. My mother is a teacher here in New York City. My mother told us yesterday when we were going to church that now they have to give their students ramen noodles. Now, I love New York, but as you guys know, we are going into the Chinese New Year. One thing that they have now been told is that they should give their students ramen noodles as a way of putting cultural, diversity. I said, okay. They've never done that before. She said she don't know what the year is yet because, you know, in Chinese New Year, they have different years. So I was reading this article and I said, then in my school, I was looking at the books that I have read over the last several years of me being in school. 6 of those books are able to be read here in the state of New York. 6 of them. And the rest of them are banned in all the other states that have book bans. Under Florida governor, who is a Republican, Ron DeSantis, there has been among the most aggressive states, Florida has been amongst the most aggressive state in limiting what educators can teach. In 2022, DeSantis signed a bill that effectively prevented teaching certain concepts related to race, national origin, or sex that could make students uncomfortable, calling that discriminatory. The Florida State Board of Education also approved a rule change in 2021 prohibiting the teacher that distort historical events. This is the same man that said that slavery was a choice and that slavery is what gave slaves skills that gave them lasting skills to keep going. This is the same man that is teaching that and that is pushing that in his state and that ran for president. Let's not forget that. Florida's ban includes material such as the New York Times, the 1619 Project. Is everybody aware of what the 1619 Project is? Okay, one day I'm going to have to do it. Can't go into it tonight because it's a whole different lesson. Miss Gina can come up here and probably teach it herself, but not tonight. Which drew criticism from many conservatives. They saw the project's focus on Jamestown as a starting point for the U.S. slave trade as a slap in the face at America's origin story. Texas has a similar ban. Now, we're going to talk about the state of play. Such policies are many ways that teachers now approach Black History Month carefully. A civic middle school teacher, Crystal, in Miami-Dade County, Florida, says how to teach How do I teach the end of slavery, the 13th Amendment, and then not answer or acknowledge it? Miami-Dade schools offer teachers readings or lesson plans that district officials say align with the state standards. But many teachers unlikely to use them because they don't want to run afoul of the new rules. Zoom out. We're going to zoom out. In many communities across the nation, the limits on teaching racism and Black history began with activists teaching critical race theory. Critical race theory, which holds that racism was baked into the nation's foundation and has emerged and ingrained in our legal, financial, and educational system. So, that's what I wanted to say to that. So now, we have states that have banned books. I have read several of the books that have been banned. I'm grateful enough because there's some people that cannot say that they have had the ability to read these books. Why? These books were taken out of their schools. Now teachers are having a problem with how can I go about teaching Black history? How do I go about teaching Black history without losing my job, without losing my license? You have governors that are against teaching Black history. But the reason why they are doing that is, as Rev even said it, they don't want their children, their grandchildren, and their family to know what has really happened in this country. They don't want them to understand that their family accumulated their wealth off the backs of Black people. That Black people for years have been disenfranchised in every area of life. So my question to you is, how do you feel about how Black education is being taught in America? Don't just look at New York, because New York is probably going to be the one place where you don't have to worry about many of your rights being infringed upon. There are other things we have to worry about, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. But right now I want to talk about Black education. Oh, I can't wait for convention. Okay, come on, Mr. Ernest.
All of our kids have to know what's going on and what's been going on. And the only way to tell them is if the parents and the people tell them. Anyway, I want to read this to you. The story must be told. The story must be told of what was done to our families and each and every one. Tell the story of what your ancestors done, how they hung, burned, shot, raped, and killed everyone. Are you ashamed of all you and your ancestors done? And you try to hide it from everyone? You can't erase history. Everyone knows that this is not a mystery. All people know what was done in history. This is today, and you're trying to treat us the same old way. Who are you hiding from? And why don't you want everyone to know what you and your ancestors have done? You don't never hide what has opened up all people's eyes. You are doing the same thing across the land, what was done by the Ku Klux Klan. Even though this is modern time, you are showing exactly what's on your mind. Make no mistakes, it all comes under hate. It's a crime, and you should be doing some time. A hate crime is against the law, and it hurts us all. Stand up against hate and make America great.
Now, y'all know Mr. Ernest is a poet. Thank you, Mr. Ernest.
Good evening, Huddle. So I think that the best way to start about that would be to first allow the children, before you even teach them how to read, is to come to the understanding that they're cosmic beings. And this right here will help everything in that they will deal with the yin and yang factors inside themselves. Seeing as how, one is adverse to the other, intermingling the two can become a very difficult thing to do, though it is simple to have it being done. Even with the way that I've noted how Dr. Umar's is going about creating a school system, if you don't teach a person what they truly are, first of all, it doesn't matter what race they are. They have not overcome the flesh and the carnal mind. And if you don't overcome the flesh and the carnal mind, you're going to have hatred, because one piece is going to always try to outdo the other piece. And as soon as you give favor to the other one, then that one will try to overcompensate for what they've been missing.
Thank you. Education.
Good evening, everybody. This is a very good question, because we all need to open our eyes. We are our own worst enemy. Teach good stories. Our president puts his hands on the Bible. The Bible has 2 books. One is very violent and crucial to the new book, which is all about Christ's death, the sacrificial lamb, murdered. His mother held him just like Trayvon Martin's mother, and every person. There is kings of every color and every creed, but the Christian country is what made this country. So teach the good. Do not speak of the bad. People could have drugs, criminals. Crime is bad. I don't teach the good stories, George Washington Carver, Sidney Poitier. Teach the good, because the bad, we don't really know what makes a person do bad. The KKK should be outlawed because they cover their whole body, and there is colored, white, all people, and that's the people who used to rule the world with slavery. And we got to stop, because this country was never allowed. Does that mean it existed? Yes, it did exist, just like today. We have men taking women as hostages thinking they're sex slaves. Women always had the right to vote, and so did men, as long as you had your papers. So please, let's make everything good for the children, because when you teach, Martin Luther says, you can't get rid of hate with hate. The hateful, ugly stories, don't talk about it. Talk about the good stories so we have happiness and joy and not hate anymore.
Thank you. And I agree with the comment about the Ku Klux Klan. America makes all these other groups terrorist organizations, but yet the Ku Klux Klan is still not considered a terrorist, domestic or foreign. So we have to understand that. But there are groups that are considered terrorists that I don't think should be. But that's another conversation. Come on, Miss Gina. Oh, you forgot the question. How do you feel on black education being taught in America?
Thank you. So, black education being taught in America. This is a very sensitive topic, because our children are walking the streets every day and they cannot get a friendly welcome when they come to school. And so to highlight people of color and what they're doing is very important, because we know that most of the times children of color will not succeed to higher education for several reasons. One is just not economically affordable. Besides getting into debt, unless you have parents who are wealthy or they started a college fund for you. And then once you get to higher education, there are the other, I like to say, exit walks, not challenges or barriers, exit walks that you have to take because people are not going to be kind, people are going to be very mixy, and then there's falling into the category of the haves and the have-nots. And so when that happens, people will generally get discouraged and drop out unless they have a family like Nan to keep encouraging and then to motivate for children to be the best that they can be. But right now, they've been, I've been waiting to see this curriculum and how well it's being taught. I will say Thurgood Marshall High School has the best library in the world. They have every book in there of a person of color, every topic, everything, probably more than the Schomburg research. And I was very impressed to see that. But back to the curriculum, where is it? Because it hasn't really been implemented yet. And that's the part that we need to work on.
Thank you. We got 3 more people. We're doing good on time today. Very good.
Thank you, sir. The way I see this whole conversation, yes, it's critical that we understand Black history. We understand what happened. But what's even more important is to upgrade the education system. Because the main thing missing from the education system is teaching people how to think. Thinking is not taught. Memorizing skills so you could do stuff is taught. But it's not, how do I analyze? How do I invent? How do I create? How do I do this better? I have to say personally that I feel blessed that I was around growing up with so many different unique people that I can hear their thoughts and then I can decide what I want to do. And then at some point in life, I was able to start noticing that the voices in my head, they're not me, they're just some voices in my subconscious mind is telling me what's going on and giving me some ideas so I can start thinking, actually analyzing stuff. So I don't take things on face value. I need to look at things originally. Now, we are blessed with children up until about 5, 6 years old when they start going to school and start listening to adults, that they actually still know how to think. That's why they ask crazy questions. That's why they're in charge of us, even though we think we're in charge of them. So if we could find a way to teach human beings how to think, then we could actually collaborate, create, and win and expand the evolution of our species. Because the folks that don't want us knowing about Black history, they're scared that if we start thinking, we'll outthink them and they won't know what they're doing. They hate to lose. So that's my thing. That's all I got.
Hi, good day, everybody, and God bless everybody. I'm a retired educator, and there was an incident that occurred. I'm going to make this very brief and pertaining to that. I'm going to get to the point of your question. But this is in the 80s, and I was a substitute teacher teaching Kwanzaa. And I drew the Kinara, and after each lesson, anybody who wanted to draw more about the Kinara and all the rest of that, we did a lesson on it. When the teacher returned to the classroom, she saw the Kinara and went right over and ripped it down. That was in the 80s. That was in the 80s. So this extreme now of banning books, I don't understand really what it's supposed to accomplish, but the children have access to documentaries. Whatever they want to learn, they could, in terms of certain histories, including Black history, they could go to a documentary on Netflix, YouTube. They still have access to learn if they want to. The fact that we're talking about banned books, there's a list of banned books, so if they're interested, they'll learn. This is a tactic that we can't allow to stop us from learning what we need to learn, because we're responsible for what we need to know in order to achieve what we know we need to achieve. So they're also distorting their own history. Because in listening to these particular articles about banning books, because the focus is Black history and not to tell certain aspects of Black history, they're also not telling certain aspects of white history. There were actually abolitionists who were against slavery, so they're not telling that story either. And, you know, a point to the lady, that's a good story, the abolitionists who were white. They need to include all of that. And that will help these so-called children who will feel bad if teach them about abolitionists. And they could decide that they want to be abolitionists also. So to be fair to everybody, it has to be a full, rounded discussion about the whole history pertaining to us, which includes some white people who were very supportive and very helpful. And that was one of the reasons there was a civil war. There was a whole bunch of white people that did not want slavery to occur in the South. So the point is, they could do what they need to do, but my thing is we gotta vote for more Democrats so they can stop banning these books and get us back on the right track. God bless y'all.
All right, we got 2 more points and we're moving.
I was watching Channel 22 yesterday. I'm in the Bronx, and the young man went from one state, like Reverend Sharpton says, we stand up and fight back and shut them down. And the young man had to talk to his mom and brother about the harassment of police. Okay, I came out of a family with a father that was a cop in New York City. So we were, with the education, I was lost in that education department because of reading words in a sentence with numbers. I was lost. And I got held back in the 5th grade and the 10th grade. And being a student the slavery time till now, we still got to teach our children. We can't not depend on other people to teach our children the history.
I'm a retired teacher. I was with the DOE for about 19 years. I found there was a lot of racism on the part of the administration. I remember I said to one of my students, I was telling them about a guy named Reginald Lewis, who wrote a book called Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? I wanted to take my students to Baltimore. They have a wonderful museum there, which I still haven't gone to yet. And the principal came and said, no, it's not in the curriculum. Valerie, we're tired of you teaching stuff that's not in the curriculum. Stick to the curriculum. I said, it's the end of the year. They've done what they need to do. No, they don't. They need to study for the Regents exam. You're not going to the Reginald Museum. But anyway, what upset me was I told my students that this black man, Reginald Lewis, when he passed away, he left his widow, Lowita Lewis, $200 million. And this student stood up and he said, Ms. Gulston, you are a liar. And I looked at him and everybody looked at him. I said, what? Why would you say that? No black man in the United States of America has ever earned that kind of money unless he was dribbling a basketball. I said, you were wrong. This guy worked on Wall Street. I was like so upset. So I called National Academy Foundation. That was my industry partner. They said, we will send you 200 copies of his autobiography, which they did. We read the book, and the kids were like, wow, thank you, Ms. Gulston. This is so awesome. I had no idea, okay? So I don't think we can depend on or rely on these white educators to do the right thing. We are going to have to use after-school centers, community centers, and figure out ways to impart that knowledge to our students, because the administrators, many of whom I had who were white or even Hispanic, were against it. They even said, you're too Afrocentric, we don't want all this black, black, black stuff. Okay, that's what they told me. The other thing is, get the students out of the classroom. Take them on trips. I took my students to MTV because Rihanna was there. And I had some students in my class, I was teaching them Excel, they just weren't really into it, they weren't paying attention, and I said to them, I'm giving a test on Excel in 2 weeks. If you pass my exam, you get to go and see Rihanna. If you fail it, you will be here, you will not go. They were studying, their parents were calling me saying, Miss Gulston, my daughter wants to see Rihanna. What can I do to help? I gave the exam, even the kids who were recalcitrant gave me a hard time, they got 90s. They were like, I want to see Rihanna. We went to MTV, we saw Rihanna, she did her umbrella, none of my umbrella. There were black men in the studio who were cameramen, and the black males bonded with them and said, I think I would be interested in this as a career. They gave them information. Some of them went to SUNY Upstate, Alfred, and some other schools. I would be walking down Fifth Avenue, and a kid would run up to me, hi, Miss Gulston, how you doing? I went to SUNY Alfred. I studied visual arts and communications. I'm now working at such and such studio. Thank you. So get out of the classroom, take the kids on trips. Do not depend on the white power structure. Teach kids after school at the YMCA or whatever. Take them to museums.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And she gave some really good knowledge and some really good jewels that we should use. All right? All right. I'm going to just read. I'm not going to say nothing. I just want to give this to you guys about something that I was reading, and it's one of the Did You Knows, and then Ashley's coming with hers, and then we're done. But I wanted to speak really briefly. As you all know, this is 2024. So if this is 2024, what does that mean? Presidential election. This is an election year. It's also a leap year. Yes, thank you very much. So we have an extra day. Instead of 365 days, it's 366. All right, but I wanted to just really briefly speak on an article. I wanted to really briefly speak on an article that spoke about energizing South Carolina black voters, which is crucial to Biden as a campaign look ahead to swing states. So, earlier this week, well, sometime this week, me, Mr. Arthur, and some people were sitting by the front desk, and we saw Rev on the TV. Right before Rev came on MSNBC, there was a panel where they were talking to black men about voting. And they said that they were going to vote for Donald Trump. First thing, they said, the man that was interviewing, he said, why are black men so attracted to Donald Trump? And they said, money. That was the first thing. All they said was, why are people so attractive? Rev said that people shouldn't be attractive to, Donald Trump because he's not looking for a wife. Donald Trump is not, well, I don't know. But he ain't looking for no companions, neither is President Biden. So there's no need for us to be attracted to them. We don't need to look for a date or nothing. That's what Rev said. Didn't he say that? Y'all don't listen on Saturdays, all right. I was taking notes. But that article, this article, as I was reading it, was really standing out to me. So, this is what I wanted to read. The Democrats' first primary of 2024 begins in South Carolina. As we all know, this is out of the ordinary because normally the primaries start in Iowa. But the Democrats said, we're not going to go to Iowa, we're going to go to South Carolina. South Carolina is big. That is a swing state, and I think that was a swing state that President Biden got in 2022. All right. So, South Carolina propelled Joe Biden to the Democratic nomination 4 years ago and had little to no trouble. What was really at stake for President Biden was the depth of support he received from black voters. They made up half of the party's primary electorate in the state in 2020 and gave him a resounding victory, a win he was rewarded by moving South Carolina to the front of the party's nominating process. In the general election, President Biden was backed by 91% of voters nationwide. Biden's support among black voters has warranted him considerably since he assembled his winning coalition 4 years ago. His approval rating among black adults is 42% in the latest Associated Press poll. 1 second. All right, so let me give you some general information that I think we've been talking about. And every week we're going to try to give you guys some new information on what's going on with the election. But younger black voters said they want Biden to represent their concerns and see them prioritized if he wins in a second term. Black voters are really for school year, a 9% increase from the South Carolina Board of Education data. Student loans and the economy. Biden has been pushing a broad plan for student loan forgiveness. Is there anybody in here with student loans? Okay, y'all not afraid to admit it. Now, you know President Biden, somebody said if you want your debt forgiven, student loans, vote for Biden. Trump has no plan on forgiving student loans. I'm not telling you to vote for him. I'm just saying what somebody said. So don't take that as my endorsement of the president standing behind this podium. I'm just saying what people said. President Biden's initial plan was struck down by the Supreme Court. This was also during the time when they struck down affirmative action. That is part of it. Student loan forgiveness is part of the reason why affirmative action was struck down, because some of the most people with student loan debt is black people in America. So don't forget that. All right, I'm almost done, and then Ashley's coming. Then, this is the one I love. People say that they have age concerns about the president. President of the United States, how old is President Biden? 82. When we voted for him, how old was President Biden? 78. I love when Rev says that. And Donald Trump is only 3 years behind him. Donald Trump is 77 going on 78 or 79. However old Donald Trump is not as good either as him. I was watching a video the other day of Donald Trump going down a ramp. And it made me laugh because he was stumbling. I said, Lord, forgive me. But, Donald Trump is old, just as old. And so, but some people, with their age comes wisdom. Not everybody. And Donald Trump is not one of those that are very wise. Yes, help us, Lord. Okay, voting rights, abortion, overdoses. These are three big things that are on the ballot. We have the former president that is right along with some of these Republicans. If you don't know, there have been laws that have been preventing people from now selling water during election lines. Now, if anybody remembers during 2020, there were some long election lines. Am I right? Even in early voting. And you know who were the people that helped sustain those lines? The street vendors. They weren't real vendors, but these are people just standing along the sides. You want a bottle of water, you want some chips, you want something. Now, in some of these states, Georgia's one of them, Texas is another one, they are now misdemeanors, and some of them can go as far as a felony for just selling water on the side of an election line. Can you believe it? That's one. The second thing people are concerned about, abortion and reproductive rights. In the Ohio ballot of last year, the people voted. The people voted. This was not a vote of legislators, but the people voted on if they wanted to keep abortion and give women reproductive rights. That does not happen everywhere. Some people in certain states, most people would not even have the ability to say what they want to vote for. That's why they say, oh, you have these elected representatives. And last is overdose. That is something that is major. We live here in New York City. If you are from Harlem, if you're from the Bronx, 125th, okay, go across the bridge, 149th Street and 3rd Avenue. So we have to be careful with now, these are three things: voting rights, abortion, overdose. What else did I talk about? The economy, student loan. These are all things that we need to be concerned about and that black voters are talking about with the president. But then we also have to give people the information regarding the former president. Because Ashley, I know that's something, I'm going to talk to Ashley about us having a conversation on that one day. Because these black men, it was 4 black men, they were sitting in a barbershop. I remember it like it was yesterday. I saw the interview, I was watching, Rev came on right after that. And they said, these 4 people in those chairs said, he said, why are black voters so attracted to Donald Trump? And the first thing they said was money. They believe that Donald Trump put money in the pockets of the people. Then I saw another video on Instagram. It was people in the Bronx. They interviewed people in the Bronx, Miss Gina, on 3rd Avenue of all places. Oh, I know. Okay, well, she said, I'm not from the Bronx. All right, never mind. But she walked up here like she was about to say something. But anyhow, they interviewed people in the Bronx on 149th Street and 3rd Avenue. And they said, if Donald Trump was to come right now, what are you going to do? They said, we're going to give him so many hugs and we want him to come back because he put money in our pockets. The only time Donald Trump gave you money was never. Second time, the only time when there was ever money associated with Donald Trump was during the pandemic. So unless you want the pandemic to come back, which we do not want, Donald Trump is not giving you a dime. But I know, Miss Gina, I didn't want nobody to say nothing, but I'll let you say something, Miss Gina. You can come up and say something very briefly. Oh, please.
No, it is. So, you know what? This is so important because DeSantis, right? He was running for the presidency. But I could almost guarantee this, that he is going to be 4 or 5's running mate. And let me tell you how education will definitely change because books are already banned in Florida, right? They're making it very challenging for children to just get to school, to learn, much less get employment or anything, right? So if 45 and DeSantis, God forgive me for saying this, but if they get into the White House, this is what's going to happen. There will be no more term limits because they will be in those seats until the day they die. And you better believe it. And guess what? Shackles and chains will be back because we will have nowhere to go. We will have no income. We will have no education. We will be back to segregation. Our children, this is why I stay on my son all the time. I need you to read. I need you to stay focused. No distractions. Stay focused and grind. Okay? That's it. Because he won't I'm so afraid for him to grow up in America now. Because what is he going to have? How is he going to sustain himself? Okay? And so that's what's going to come out down into the wash, into the rinse cycle probably. So you notice how he just said, oh, I'm just going to take my name out for the presidency. No, him and 4 or 5 had a whole conversation about this. That's why. That's why. So we really need to pay attention to what's happening. And Hill Harper said it best, okay? He said, if we don't stay aligned with each other, all candidates of color to stay aligned and share information and help each other, even if we're from other states, because there's ways that you can help support another candidate in another state. And so we must really consider this plan of action because it's a great one. Because that's the only way that we're going to keep politicians of color in the seats. And then when you get in the seat, you got to do the right thing. That's not a play on words.
Thank you, Miss Gina. And so I'm going to close with this. Miss Gina said everything. But when you go home, I want you guys to research. Write this down for all of you. I want you to read the article on what's called Project 2025. Project 2025. And that aligns a list of conservatives, starting with their leader, Donald Trump. and it is to keep Donald Trump and get him into office. And Ms. Gina is so right. Donald Trump is a narcissist. He is a full-on narcissist, and if you can't see it, you're blind. He owes a lot of money, because even though people said that lady, she's not going to get that $200 million, but even though he's appealing, he still has to put a third of the money down. And that's still $80 million. Donald Trump really don't have a lot of money, so that's going to hurt his pockets. Then his buddy, Rudy Giuliani, he got a lot of money. He got as much money as Donald Trump. And now he's about to file for bankruptcy. Did he already file? They said it's coming soon. Oh, he already filed. Never mind that. I'm sorry? Oh, I don't know which one either, but I do know that Rudy Giuliani owes a lot of money. But before we get stuck on this conference, we're going to finish this next week. We got another Monday. But I want Ashley to come up with our final Did You Know of the evening. I should have started with that one before but black education is important. But Ashley's going to come with her Did You Know, and that's going to be our last Did You Know for the night. So let's give our founder, Miss Ashley Sharpton, a hand.
Good evening, everyone. Excuse my voice. Excuse me in advance. Okay, so my article is informational, so I don't have a question. But if you have statements or if you want to share something after, you're welcome to share. All right. The title is The Effect of Police Violence on Black Americans' Health is documented in 2 new studies. The effect of police violence on Black Americans is tracked in 2 new studies, with one tying police-involved deaths to sleep disturbances, and the other finding a racial gap in injuries involving police use of tasers. The health effects of police violence on Black people need to be documented as a critical first step to reduce these harms. 3 editors of JAMA Internal Medicine wrote in an editorial published Monday with the studies. For the sleep study, researchers looked at responses from more than 2 million people from 2013 through 2019 in 2 large government surveys. They focused on people's reports of sleep in the months following police-involved killings of unarmed Black people. They found a pattern of sleep disturbances, particularly getting less than 6 hours of sleep amongst Black people, but not amongst white people, in the 6 months following a police-involved killing. For the year studied, police-involved killings of unarmed Black people totaled 331 in the database used by the researchers. Mapping police violence, a project using Justice Department statistics and crowdsourced databases. The killings included cases that gained national attention, such as the deaths of Eric Garner and Tamir Rice, as well as others less widely known. And we're all very familiar with all of those cases, or most of those cases. For more prominent police-involved deaths, there was an 11.4% increase in reporting very short sleep compared with the average for all Black survey respondents. For deaths, whether prominent or not, that happened in the same state as the survey respondent, the effect was a 6.5% increase. This type of study cannot prove cause and effect. The researchers made adjustments for age, sex, education, and other factors that might account for differences, and still found the pattern of more sleep disturbance reports from Black people after police-involved deaths. Discrimination can manifest in all sorts of ways, one of which is unequal exposure to police use of force, said Dr. Athinder Venkataramani of the University of Pennsylvania, who led the study. Poor sleep can raise the lifetime risk of a number of diseases, as well as the risk of early death. The second study found racial disparities and injuries that occurred when tasers and similar weapons were used by police to incapacitate people. It's the first comprehensive national analysis of such injuries using emergency department data. The study was possible because of a new medical code added in late 2019, denoting law enforcement-related use of tasers and similar weapons. Researchers analyzed data on 1,276 emergency department visits from October 2019 through December 2020, where an injury coincided with police use of such conducted energy devices. Nearly 36% of those injured were Black, far above the 13.6% share of the general U.S. population. White people made up 39% of the injured, Hispanic people 17.6%, Native Americans 2%, and Asian or Pacific Islander people 1.4%. The injuries included puncture wounds, concussions, fractures, and traumatic brain injuries. The devices are known to cause falls, but the researchers couldn't pin down if police used the weapons incorrectly or the exact role of the weapons in the injuries. It's really important to make sure that law enforcement officers get the proper training on how to deploy these things and minimize the risk of long-term injury. So basically, that's the end of the article. But I thought it was very important that they're looking into this and trying to discuss the effects of police violence. But we all know the effects of police violence because we all deal with this on a day-to-day basis. So all I can do is continue to urge self-care. A lot of us watch the viral videos. A lot of us share it to basically make sure people know what's going on out there. But I ask you sometime to take a break. Take a break from watching that. That's trauma porn. All day, the internet is full of trauma porn, and that gets in your head, and you don't even realize that you're thinking in a certain form or a certain way, and you're walking around in a certain manner, carrying these burdens, carrying what you watched, and you don't even know that you're carrying that. So you just have to be careful, especially our young people, what's in our minds, what we're consuming, because yes, it is reality, and yes, we have to fight it, but you don't have to consume it constantly. You don't have to constantly consume that hate and that rage and that trauma, because it's disgusting. So I just thought that was important to share. If anybody have anything to add, we welcome you. Come on.
I just want to make one comment because with the influx of immigrants here, like 3 days ago, I saw 2 police get beat down by immigrants. And I noticed, and it's not even a notice, like I know if they were black men, that would have ended totally differently. And then I'm seeing on the news today, like 3 hours ago, there's a crime spree with immigrants in the Bronx, just snatching people's purses and robbing them and stuff. And it's disturbing because, like, I'm black and I'm American, and sometimes I get mistaken for a boy. You know, I understand. But at the same time, I'm not a threat, but I could be perceived as a threat just because of the color of my skin and my gear. But now you have actual threats here, and like I watched them get arrested, go to jail, and get out with no bail. Like one of them are still inside, but the rest of them walked. And the bail laws that were meant to protect us are now protecting them, but they're the ones committing the crime. So I'm just taking notes of everything because it's very disturbing to see illegal immigrants. Now they're not even supposed to be here, but they're getting benefits. There's a lot of stuff going on with them, and it's just not right. And there's no like right or wrong, but I'm just fed up at this point. So it's like I'm ready to do something, but I don't know what. But we're overrun with immigrants now, and they're committing crimes. And for them to be walking scot-free, knowing that if it was one of us, we would be laying dead on the street, is very disturbing. So I just hope there's a solution to this.
Thank you. I don't know if that had anything to do with what I talked about, but it's definitely pertinent information. Rev was on Morning Joe this morning talking about that issue. I know the mayor is under attack. And just to add my personal opinion, I don't have a solution about what's going on with the immigrants. I don't know what he can do, and a lot of people are attacking Mayor Adams about it, but I don't know what their suggestions are. Like, we're literally overloaded with immigrants that's being sent here every day by GOP states. Like, this is a ploy. This is all a part of the bigger ploy. And it's not necessarily about Mayor Adams or the immigrants. It's basically just to overrun certain cities to make it seem like we don't have control of our cities. And we don't have the resources to help. So that's the whole thing with Biden. We don't have the resources at all to handle what's going on with these migrants. But they need to deal with it and figure it out and handle the GOP governors that's sending these bus loads here. But that's we can talk about that actually next week. I'm going to put that as a did you know, Lorianne. Thank you.
That makes perfect sense. Sabotage you by putting up too much for you to handle. So first off, about the police, I don't understand how you can sign up as a peacekeeping officer when, in fact, you yourself are full of militia in your heart. That's a contradiction, period. So I asked a lot of police and walked in their stations and asked them about it. They got mad. They didn't want to look at the ugliness inside themselves. And now we have a presidential candidate who's such a, dare I say, chump, because he don't want to look at the ugliness inside himself, but he keep lashing out on everybody else, telling on them.
And then, you know, he's like a predator. You never repent for this evil. Even God himself repent. Why you think you too good? Or anybody for that matter. That's all.
Thank you. One sister.
We, as a people, like the Dr. Reverend Sharpton said, if we're not going to come here and listen to the information that he's given out for us, I'm here. 38 years ago, or it was, my daughter was 7. I lost my children, and I came to the office on 125th Street. I tried to get help. Somebody told me to go up there to get help, but I'm here because the information I need. And I thank God for your mom when she brought that beautiful coat for your father, that it saved him. It saved him.
Thank you, sister.
I just want to say again, we all need to open our eyes because artificial intelligence is being used in ways that never knew before. And all these migrants that are coming here, they're illegal. And that means that we really don't have a DOD, a Department of Defense. So the people who there are some people who want slavery and they're a criminal mind. And we do have people who have that. And what they did, right now, a lot of the newspapers, especially the religious newspapers, they're ceasing to exist. And a lot of people don't like the computer, plus the computer, you could be targeted that it's not quick, something goes wrong, you have to keep doing it. To find something, you open a paper, you read it. The computer, the page goes, this